Welcome to the Democratizing Access to Investing session at South by Southwest 2021. My name is Shelley Archambault, and I'm so pleased to be here for the virtual Southwest. Oops, I messed up. I'll do it again.
You sound good though. I was
All
like,
right,
I need to make sure I sound professional. And
we'll try it again. The problem is the SX. It's like, okay, so I still know the South by Southwest. All right.
Right.
Welcome to the Democratizing Access to Investing session at the South by Southwest 2021. My name is Shelley Archambault, and I'm so pleased to be here for the South by Southwest and to be joined by one of the most compelling young CEOs in America, Ryan Williams. At just 32 years old, Ryan is the co-founder and CEO of one of the fastest growing fintech companies in the country, Cadre, a company with the mission of democratizing access to real estate investing, the asset class that has traditionally been one of the #1 drivers of wealth in the US. Ryan was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, worked his way through Harvard, and worked at Goldman Sachs and Blackstone before founding Cadre in 2014. He's been on the cover of Forbes and has won just about every award out there for young entrepreneurs. In many ways, Ryan is the face of the new generation of leaders who are working at leveling the playing field in business and in society. Ryan, let's jump in. Let me get started. First question. I mentioned in the opening that you were born in Baton Rouge. Now, you don't come from a wealthy family, and you've said that in growing up, there weren't many people around you that actually owned their homes, had the successful careers for you to model yourself after. Yet, you were a young entrepreneur at an early age. Do you think that the whole entrepreneurial streak was learned or innate?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both is my answer. And but there does have to be an orientation and a perspective of seeing challenges as opportunities. And in many ways, I think that's what ultimately led me to starting businesses early on. Some more structured than others. But that lens of seeing a lot of the challenges, a lot of the adversity, I grew up around as, not just challenges, but opportunities to improve conditions for myself, my family, and others. And the like is really what I think led me to funneling that energy and that perspective into starting businesses. That being said, there's definitely an element of environment that comes into play as well. I grew up around a lot of people who were just as talented, just as smart as me, who were in an environment that made it even more challenging, to prosper in the face of that adversity. And so I was fortunate that while my broader environment wasn't necessarily conducive to having a ton of role models to model my experience and my energy after, I did have parents who believed in me, who didn't frankly know how to build businesses themselves, but saw more in me than I even saw in myself. And part of my journey, I think, has been really almost a self-fulfilling prophecy as a result of their belief in me. And so that kind of micro support, that micro environment was critical for me to really be able to maximize experience, skills, talent to start businesses.
Well, that's great. And I loved the overall focus of your challenges, right? Can be opportunities, because you talked about the environment in which you grew up and I touched on it earlier, but not a lot of people own homes. And yet you decided that the whole real estate arena was where you really wanted to bring the whole aspect of democracy, right? To enable more people to actually participate in the wealth creation of real estate. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, real estate, as you mentioned, is one of the most important asset classes to own, to build wealth. Most millionaires in this country, in some way, shape, or form, have a direct connection to real estate. And so, I learned that the dynamic, especially through college, and seeing so many folks who I went to school with who had, the financial stability as a result of that home ownership. And I saw how real estate really allowed folks to build multi-generational wealth. Same time, I saw, from my own background, my own experience in childhood, that was really more of a pipe dream. I remember actually driving around and just looking at houses in nicer neighborhoods, and there was always an aspiration but it was never something that was attainable. And so, I in many ways stumbled on the real estate space during the subprime credit crisis in 2008. I happened to be in Atlanta with one of my best friends and roommates from college, and I saw all these foreclosures. And what I realized was, this was actually an opportunity to invest and potentially buy some of these homes, but also stabilize many of these communities. And it was, again, seeing this challenge in these really unprecedented circumstances, but asking the question, what if we could invest, and what if we could buy, and what if we could help others stabilize their community? And again, that orientation, grounded in this passion I had for understanding how I could invest and own my financial future, literally and figuratively, led me to starting Cadre. And again, I think that the goal in many ways for us is to allow every single person to own their future, for every single person to participate, in this asset class, and have the stability that growing up was something that was more of a dream and an aspiration, but now more than ever should be something that's attainable for all people.
Absolutely. You talk about bringing the opportunity, in essence, to Main Street. It's interesting because earlier this year, we saw a dramatic clash between Main Street and Wall Street and the whole GameStop trading incident. Among other things, it's really a sign that the younger investors are feeling more empowered than ever to make good financial decisions. And Cadre serves both individual and institutional investors, I believe. So how do you think about this dynamic?
Yeah, no, it's a real dynamic. And I think now more than ever, it's something that we have to address, acknowledge, and understand. I think what we're seeing is that many people are frankly fed up with being left on the outside looking in. I think now more than ever, there's visibility and transparency into the wealth that has been concentrated in the hands of so few people for so long. And the beauty of technology is that in many ways it can help level the playing field. And again, I think what you saw with GameStop and some of the other equity plays was individuals who have access to technology platform banding together and saying, we need greater parity between the haves and the have-nots. And it's no longer fair or equitable that these asset classes, these investments have been walled off. And those barriers have to get broken down. We have to democratize access. And we're excited about that play at Cadre. We're excited about that perspective. And my vision has always been to democratize access to not just the equities, which again I think is a great part of folks' portfolio, but alternatives. It's to make alternative investments like real estate less alternative, and open up institutional access to the individual. And again, I think that that's a trend and a tailwind that's not going away, and has to be reckoned with. And that's what we're focused on doing at Cadre, in a space that's been incredibly opaque and inaccessible for so long.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ryan. I think it's fair to say that investing is far more democratic than it's been, 20 years ago, heck, even just 5 years ago, right? I mean, we have better access to information, trading is less expensive. There are more tools like ETFs and crowdfunding platforms. All those things didn't really exist until recently. So I guess the question is, this is all good, but where does it go from here? What's missing?
Yeah, well, look, I think, these dynamics are 100% going to be front and center for so many more people, frankly, forever. And I believe what's missing in many ways is that, it's not just democratizing investments, but it's how do you democratize, the top tier investments? How do you democratize the best performing investment products and asset classes? Because in some ways, just opening up access as a free-for-all could lead to even more dislocations and lead to even more disparities. And I think what you have seen with many platforms, there's endless crowdfunding sites, is that there's almost adverse selection, and the kind of products that folks are able to get access to aren't the best opportunities. And to me, that's creating a veneer of access without true quality access. And so what I think has to happen is there has to be the democratization of not just access, but democratization of insights and curation as well. So folks, when they're joining platforms and looking to participate in investments that have historically been out of reach, they know that they're getting oversight. They know that they're getting access to information that will help them be more empowered. And they know that they're getting curation that, again, has been reserved historically for the 1% of the 1%. And so I think what's going to happen is not just this democratization of access, but a democratization of insights, information, and curation. So more people, can benefit from ownership of the best performing products. And so that in many ways, the market helps ensure that, supply can more efficiently meet that demand.
Insights, information, and curation. I think you're absolutely right. I've also seen, though, that investors, especially younger investors, are also looking to make sure that companies share similar values before they put their dollars in. For instance, they're looking to see and understand how companies are thinking about ESG and diversity initiatives. And are they part of the core or just off to the side, right? What responsibilities do you think companies and investors have on both sides to really push for these ESG and diversity types of goals?
Yeah, I first and foremost fall into the category of an African American founder and CEO that had folks invest and believe in me. And frankly, without people investing and believing in me, not sure if I'd be where I am right now. And I think a lot of what I was fortunate to benefit from is some individuals and institutions who were willing to rethink, what success looks like. There's a pattern recognition issue that, leads to minority and women organizations, leaders being seen as more risky, and that risk is attributed to them. And I think that has to change. And I think that's the only way we're going to reduce a lot of the disparities and the inequities we see. And that has to come from companies and it has to come from investors. And they have to be incredibly intentional about having diverse backgrounds, at every part of the table, at every seat of the table, rather. There has to be intention around everything from board level diversity in governance to operating level to investor level diversity. And folks have to be willing to be held accountable. And so one thing that we've done at Cadre, beyond ensuring that we're public and clear about our corporate level diversity metrics, is we've also built a new product, leveraged our platform to back and capitalize diverse operators in the real estate transactions that we offer to individuals. And to me, that's a good example, again, of using your platform to help drive capital to historically capital deprived groups and communities in a way that I think should be more standard practice for all companies. And what we've seen is that it's not sustainable to ignore the pain, the inequity, the suffering that's been surfaced for so many more people, especially over the past year. And that the stewards, of these companies have to recognize that their constituents, their community transcends, just their shareholders and just their employees, but it's the communities that, their shareholders and employees are a part of as well. And I am encouraged that there's been more intention, but there has to be sustained intention and accountability. And I think that's how you'll build a truly well-rounded and truly impactful organization.
Yes, no, I think those are excellent points, Ryan. It's all about intention and accountability. And, I've been following your writings, obviously, and Cadre's positions and things out there. And you've said in the past that until the killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, you were really reticent to talk about race publicly because that was just something people didn't do. We didn't talk about race. But since then, you've been incredibly outspoken on the subjects of social justice, economic justice, right, which fits right in with a lot of what we're talking about in terms of democratizing investing. So what changed your thinking here?
As you alluded to, Shelley, it was a very personal topic for me. And I've always felt like my views and experiences as an African-American just generally were private and things, I would clearly discuss with family and friends, but I'd never want to be seen as a Black CEO. I wanted to be seen as an amazing CEO and someone who went to bat for his team and somebody who demonstrated excellence in all that I did. And that was my orientation and my focus. And I probably had my blinders on maybe too much. But this summer, this year, I think changed a lot for a lot of people. For me, it was really more about recognizing that in many ways, there are a lot of people within our country, a lot of people even within my company that didn't fully understand the level of pain and suffering they were seeing on their TV, they or hearing about through social media. They didn't fully appreciate or understand the drivers of a lot of the disparities that were now more top of mind and the inequities. And I felt like I had a unique perspective and was blessed to have a platform where I could help illuminate some of these discrepancies and inequities and personalize some of this pain as well through my own experiences in ways that I'd really never been comfortable doing beforehand. And so I think that recognition turned to almost an obligation I felt to speaking truth to power and to helping more people understand what was going on, because from that point of clarity, I thought change could really come in people's hearts and minds. And I recognized that, if there is going to be change, then folks need to see that behaviors are going to have to be fundamentally adjusted and perspectives change, especially in spaces like technology and real estate and financial services that have been so homogenous and so closed off for so long. And so I think it was that obligation, responsibility I felt like I had to hopefully create greater clarity and understanding and change that led me to being more comfortable being outspoken and led me to being more intentional about what we were doing at Cadre to address the very issues that I raised.
Well, Ryan, thank you. Thank you for using your power and your voice to be able to share and educate broadly with regards to these important issues. And thank you also for sharing your time today to talk about the different ways in which we can indeed democratize access to investing so that more people can achieve financial security.
Thank you, Shelley. And thank you for your leadership as well. You're an inspiration.
Bye, everybody.
All right. I thought that went great. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I thought.